Oh man, I'm still laid up with a fractured tibia. How are you doing? This is COFOH Live and Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crozier, and I am joined by the amazing Stephen Hovicki of Printed in Blood. Yes!
You write something on my face?
Steve, how are you, sir?
Hey, Daniel, how are you, man?
Good.
How's everybody else doing out there too?
Yeah, guys, feel free to comment and if you have questions for Steve and curating art, make sure to send them in. We've got a nice little comment section, so hopefully they'll be popping up here in a little bit. But Steve, thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I think about a year ago or so, I started submitting some art for you. For Printed in Blood. I've noticed some of my friends were submitting work, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And I've heard of outfits like Mondo that also does curation and stuff like that. But you were the first guys that actually responded to me, so thank you.
We have an open door policy when it comes to our projects. We don't. It's not invite only. It is not. We have a mailing list with almost 1,500 artists on it, and when we send our email blasts out with new projects and stuff like that, it goes out to everyone.
Wow, that's so cool. The books that you put out are just absolutely amazing. But Steve, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into like pop culture, film, and art curation?
Without going too deeply into my own personal history, I, like everyone else, pretty much my age, when Star Wars came out, that was pretty much the be all end all. And that turned me into the world of movie and makeup special effects. And I felt from that point forward, I was just always very much into film and movies and stuff like that. So I've been a horror kid my whole life. I've been a huge horror fan, and from there, I didn't go a normal route. I went through the normal schooling stuff. I didn't go to college. I started working construction, and I built homes and apartment buildings for almost 20 years in Chicago. And then in 2007, I ended up moving to New York for a gig, and that wrapped up a few months later, and I've been here ever since. And then I, through different connections, and I kind of got back into comics and toys, and I helped. I worked in the toy industry for a little while, and then I ended up meeting my business partner, who I started the company with, and we just started. He was actually working on a convention in Long Beach, California.
Oh, cool!
And so we ended up. We wanted to do. He had me out to do security for the show, and he was one of the owners of the show. And what happened was they were looking for something to fill a space in one of the rooms for the like a panel room. Right. And I said, well, why don't we do? It's a 30th anniversary of The Thing. I go, why don't we show the movie? And we'll get my buddy Dan Panosian to do a print, because me and him had been talking about doing something together. And that was basically how we started. We ran off a couple hundred copies of this Thing print that Dan Panosian did for us. And we handed them out to people as they were leaving the screening, and they had no idea that they were going to get this or whatever. And that was kind of the beginning. Then for every show they did after that, we would get some artist friends of ours to put together more prints. And so we would do 3 or 4 prints a year. And that was like from 2012 to 2014, 15. And then I was working at a show with Phil again, and we had an idea. A book had just come out that DC Comics had just published right after Mad Max Fury Road came out. They had put together a collection of, they went to all their comic artists and they said, do a piece based on Fury Road. Right. And they put this book out. It was like a deluxe edition. So it was like a large comic book hardcover, kind of almost like a mini graphic novel, but it was just the artwork that they did.
Yeah.
The problem was, it was in the execution, as they took all the artwork and they had the artist do all the pieces so that they would fit across a spread. Okay. But the book was so small, it had a really deep gutter in it. So there was no, you would lose like the middle inch of the artwork in the gutter by the time without completely cracking the book open,
Yeah, that's
so frustrating. And I knew people who had art in the book, and it took me a couple of passes going through the book to find it, because like identifying characteristics that I knew about the artwork, I couldn't even spot because they were completely lost in the gutter. Oh. So I was just like, man, I'm like, we should do something like this, but for another, for like, we should do, next year's the 35th anniversary of John Carr. I'm a big Thing fan, you can tell, obviously. Yeah. So for the 35th, we were like, hey, we should think about doing this, and we just started. We reached out to Universal. We were able to make a deal with them.
Cool.
And that was the beginning of it. And we just kind of put the whole thing together. And that year we spent putting that project together was really the birth of Printed in Blood.
Nice. Wow, that's so cool. We've got our friend Aaron just chimed in. He's in the hospital, but he's
sorry to hear that.
Glad to see us on. So yeah, Aaron.
Feel better, Aaron.
Yeah, get well soon. Jeez. Yeah, the art that you sent over was absolutely fantastic. So I'll bring some of that the Thing art. John
yeah, I sent you kind of a selection across some interesting pieces from all of our books. This is a piece by David Kennedy. This was one of my favorite pieces that came in for the book. He actually sent this in 2 different versions. This is the version actually that is not in the book. We chose to print the version without the text. So all that's in there is the square hole in the ice that makes the eye. Mm-hmm. So he actually had done this as an actual poster with the Thing title on it, and we actually printed the one in the book without the texts. So, but I just wanted to give you a few alternates to show on the show here that some people may have never seen before.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
I love this piece.
Yeah, from the aerial view, it's the spaceship itself.
Yes, exactly. And that the helicopter's coming in, and the 3 of them the little specks, the 3 of them standing at the hole. I love that. Oh,
that's so cool. And then we've got this piece as well.
This piece from Steve Thomas, this came in, and I absolutely fell in love with this. The amount of detail and everything that he put into this, and all the little bits and pieces from the stamps and the blood, the dog paw, blood stained paw, and the just all this stuff that he put into this is just amazing. This is a really, really amazing piece.
This is pretty fantastic. What does that say? 1982?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the upper corner there.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. Now, do you know if this was digital, or did he do this by?
I'm assuming this is digital, but okay. I mean, he would have had to have drawn all this anyway. I mean, digitally or not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. And then this one, really liked.
So people always ask me what's my favorite piece from the Thing book, and I usually play coy a little bit and don't actually pick one.
Okay.
But now 5 or 6 years removed from the project, I think I'm probably safe parking my car in the garage here and saying that Ben Turner's piece. This is probably my favorite piece in the Thing book, because it's not only beautiful looking,
Right.
but it's so smart. And he added an element to this that I think a lot of people maybe didn't get. But if you look at this, so it's all the coats of the guys hanging up, right?
Yep.
They are hung up in the order in which they die in the film.
Ah, very cool.
So
Yes.
the last two is McCready and Giles.
Right. Okay. Nice. And each one has clearly their individual story too.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's cool. The composition, you've got this
it's
minimalism, happening, and but it's so striking, and it certainly tells its own story.
I opened up this file when I got it in, and my jaw just hit my desktop. I got it immediately, and I was just instantly blown away by it.
Man, that's so cool. In the book, because it's so long, was it a 2-page spread?
No, we actually when we did the first book, we didn't want to do any spreads in it. So what we ended up doing was we actually did the horizontally oriented pieces sideways in the book, and we kind of paired them up with other horizontal pieces. So it would require you to turn the book 45 degrees or 90 degrees so you could see both pieces. Nice. But that was how we were able to kind of retain the full image without having to worry about, because we weren't exactly sure how that was going to come back to us from the printer. So we wanted to make sure that on the number of these images that we didn't run into the same problem.
Man. Yeah, this one is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I love that piece.
The fact that you can see, that the coats are pretty traveled, the wear and tear, how they died, obviously, people that are fans of the film and, can really read into it and get a lot out of it. But I'm curious to see, like what the layperson that might not be as familiar with the film would read out of that.
Well, it's nice because I think that piece is, just by itself, it's beautifully done. And I think that the style and the look and what Ben does with color, it's a beautiful piece, even if you don't know that little detail, or if you don't know the movie well enough to kind of grasp that detail the first time you look at it. Yeah. I think fans, real deep fans of the film, will get it. So once they really start looking at them, they'll kind of figure it out. And once they kind of start doing the math in their head. But it's a beautiful piece regardless, just by itself.
Yeah, the thing about your books too is it's like having your own condensed portable gallery show, just right there at your hand. You keep it on your coffee table. It's a nice conversational piece too. But yeah, it's so cool to have that, and also to have artists be a part of such a collection and among such talented people as well.
Yeah, that first book, we didn't have an approval process to go through with the studio, so we were really kind of left to our own devices as far as what pieces to pick and choose and include in the book. Right. Knowing what I know today, that book would not be 400 pages. That book would be closer to between 200 and 300 for sure. But I mean, I think I want to say, I can't remember exactly, and without actually going and digging through one of my old storage hard drives, I couldn't tell you for sure. But I think on that first thing book, I think we included, I want to say, everything but maybe 14 pieces that we got in from people.
Yeah. Wow.
And just because we didn't have to filter it,
Yeah.
There were obviously some pieces that we thought that were done in either a similar style or using the same image, and that's kind of a repetition thing we try to steer away from.
Right.
So sometimes, unfortunately, it happened a little bit, quite a bit actually, in our Aliens book that's going to be coming out in September from Titan Books.
Cool.
Where we got in almost 400 pieces of artwork, and we had to, and the studio approved everything.
Wow.
And awesome. then talent approval was, there was only like 3 or 4 people who had to do talent approvals because everything else the studio had the rights to, like
Okay.
like Bishop had, Bishop and Michael Bean and Paul Reiser. They were all approved faces, so they
Yeah.
didn't have to go to the talent to get approval. But like everything with Sigourney Weaver had to go to Sigourney Weaver.
Right.
So every piece in the Aliens book and in the Ghostbusters book that have Sigourney in them, she saw and approved all of those pieces.
Oh, that's so cool.
But then we got stuff back, and we still had to pull like probably 100 pieces out.
Oh, no kidding.
Just for space. I mean, we couldn't, we couldn't just pack everything in there. Otherwise, the images are going to be this big in the book, and it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right. The how's that process, evolved working with studios and licensing and everything like that?
It's funny. Every studio deal you run into is different. A lot of the older studio deals, they don't like anything but back past like 10 or 12 years. Actors didn't make deals for likenesses. It wasn't a thing back then. It wasn't something. Consumer products weren't at that level. People did not that they weren't. I shouldn't say not at that level, but people didn't take them as seriously then, and people weren't as protective of their image and their brand like they are now.
Yeah,
and now you find a lot more. Like, for example, we just wrapped up collecting art for a book on Hannibal, the TV series.
Right.
And every single actor in that show has likeness approval.
Ooh.
So we got a number of pieces in that have to go out to like 8 or 9 people because they did like a big group shot of all different, people from the show. Nice. And every single person has to approve it. So if one person out of those 9 doesn't like their likeness, that piece is going to get bounced.
Yeah. Wow. I submitted a piece to that, and I know I did one of Mads. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that's actually all the pieces are all with talent right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a pretty fun project. That one, I remember as a kid, like specifically Silence of the Lambs.
Sure.
I was in junior high when that came out, and I wanted to go see that, but of course it's R-rated, and Mom's not going to let me see that. And then it finally came out to VHS, and got to see the movie, and I was so enamored that I read the book. And
okay.
Yeah, we had a cool writing project in my English class. It's like, hey, write a formal letter to somebody that you admire, and at the time it was Thomas Harris with for
cool.
Silence of the Lambs. So I wrote to him and never got a response, but. I thought, man, this guy's probably a little bit edgy or psychotic. Maybe I shouldn't be reaching out to this person. But
he's probably a completely level-headed guy, and he's just
everything I've read about him since
it's like Stephen King. He's like the most normal, nicest guy you could meet, and just is able to dredge up this incredibly horrible stuff.
Yeah. So I always thought it's like, ooh, it's like, this is edgy. I'm venturing into that. It's like. So that was my little personal story of trying to connect with that. The fact that he never responded to it's just like, well, that's cool, because maybe it's not always the greatest thing to meet your heroes.
I will say this, by and large, I haven't been able to meet many of my quote unquote heroes. I don't have a lot of heroes per se, but I have done a lot of work with celebrity security and working with celebrities and professional talent and that kind of thing. And by and large, just very easygoing people, very nice, very normal. The thing that most people don't get, and I understand everyone has a kind of disconnect, or a lot of people don't have a disconnect when they don't have that kind of experience on a regular basis. Because I've witnessed some just like crazy meltdowns with people in front of like their celebrity, like the person that they love. And I mean, and honestly, to be 100% honest, the majority of it has been like smaller, like kids and stuff, like meeting like, they see somebody on TV, and then all of a sudden that person is standing in front of them. They're just like, You know,
Oh,
it's that's them. That's the person. It's
yeah,
like they don't even necessarily connect that that's just an actor playing a part. It's
yeah,
like
true.
he's right there, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
But yeah, I've witnessed some really funny interactions between celebrities and guests at shows, just because they're like completely fall apart when they like meet their people that they absolutely adore or whatever.
yeah. That's pretty yeah, hilarious, but also, can be you
Yeah.
earth shattering for that little kid,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
don't understand, acting, or playing a role or anything of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you also sent over some work for. I think this is a Stranger piece or Stranger Things.
No. So what this what this is this is a piece that's never been seen
Oh,
before anywhere. So this is the intended cover piece by Dave Dorman for our Guillermo del Toro art book that
story.
we were never able to publish, but which I still have the 400 and some pieces of artwork that were submitted for the project, because the publisher we were working with uh, kind of dropped the ball a little bit, and the project ended up falling apart. And it absolutely kills me every day to see this folder on my desktop. But I wanted to show this to people to let them know that, like, I still have the plans, or we still have plans to publish this book somehow someday. We are not going to let all this artwork go to waste.
This is a
uh,
fantastic piece by Dorman. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, Dave did this for us on kind of the tail end of what the project was happening, because we really needed a strong piece for the cover, and this is what he sent back to us, and I was just like, this is, and again, it's gorgeous, and again, I refuse to let something like this go to waste.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this Devil's Backbone, or is this Pan's
It's
Labyrinth?
it's actually all three. It's Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, and it's also Kronos.
Oh, really?
Which are the
Kronos?
the old man in the center up top, and then
Oh, okay.
all the gearing, mechanical stuff. That's all
Okay.
from Kronos.
All
And
right.
then the same thing with the red gem, actually. And then you have the fairies and the stuff, and the little girl from Pan's Labyrinth, and then the bomb, obviously, and Santi from Devil's Backbone.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen Kronos, and
Yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I've seen Devil's Backbone probably in the last 4 or 5 years, and just such gorgeous films.
Yeah. There's a long lumpy story that goes along with the how this whole thing kind of fell apart, and actually I have it all down on we have a private message board for artists as well,
Right.
that artists can go in, sign up there. It's not a public board, it's not publicly viewable. I try to do my best to kind of, anyone who signs up for the board, I either make sure that they've either contacted me ahead of time, or I can readily find out kind of a website or something, just to make sure that they are artists signing up for this. It's not just like press or whatever. So I try to keep it as public free as possible.
Right.
And so the whole story is actually relayed there on a thread about the project. So if anyone, any artists are ever interested in why this didn't happen or whatever, they can actually join the message board and find out.
Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah, I can't wait to, for that to, see the,
it's a bummer, but it is one of those projects that it's the one that got away. It's the one that I just really want to make sure sees the light of day eventually, if for absolutely nothing else than to, I want copies of the book in the hands of the artists. That's my big thing with that project, is that everyone who did a piece and sent it in, I still feel that they should get a copy of the book, even if we're never able to sell it ourselves, even if my print run consists solely of enough copies to just give to the artists themselves. But it's something we're still working on. We'll eventually get to a point where, hopefully we can get to a point where we can sit down with Guillermo one day and maybe just make a deal with him directly, and and just be like, and just do the project and have it done.
Oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. This this is definitely a Stranger Things. I love this Trapper Keeper art.
Oh man, well, so the story behind this is done by a guy named Sean Naylor. Works under the name DK Design, And this piece was actually denied by the people at Netflix because they thought exactly what you said. They thought that whoever owns the rights to the name Trapper Keeper, I don't even know what the name of that Mead, I think it is, the notebook company.
Yeah.
They felt that this was too close to like an original Mead design or something. It's like, I mean, it's kind of a compliment to Sean's work, but it's also a tremendous bummer to like bong the artwork because of that, you know?
Well,
So
wouldn't this also fall under
yes,
the platform of like parody and stuff?
it would, but I'll tell you the one thing that the Netflix people were really, I don't want to say wary of, but they were very aware of was, you know, they made a lot of deals to be able to put stuff in the show, the Duffer Brothers, you know, like obviously the kids wearing the Ghostbuster costumes in the second season. You know, and like artists, they could draw the kids in the Ghostbusters costumes, but they couldn't have Ghostbusters logos anywhere.
Oof.
And they couldn't have name tags, so they couldn't have, you know, we could just put a black patch on them.
Right.
But any of the name tags had to be photoshopped out. Stuff like that. The one thing that they did end up actually letting us go through. I think there's a couple of pieces in the book that with the Eggo logo, and that was just because they had a more comprehensive deal with them because Eggos play such an important part in that first season,
right?
So that they were able to make a slightly more encompassing deal with it, so that they could actually use the Eggo logo in artwork of theirs.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's so involved too. So many artists, especially like me, don't really think so much about the licensing and the legalities that go into it.
Yeah. You know? And it's funny sometimes to hear the reasoning behind why a studio will deny a piece. We always just, there's always sort of a bar, right. As far as just talent wise, where it's like a piece will come up and you're kind of look at it and you go, okay, this guy's not quite there yet, or he didn't quite nail that likeness. And there's 75 other pieces that do it better. So unfortunately, this time around, just not going to be the time for him. Right. And, it always amazes me when it's like the studio comes back and it's a piece like for some reason or other we really, really like, and they're like, no. And we're like, okay, why? Because I'm like, this is like a gorgeous piece. Why can we not use this? And then they deliver a reason. You're just like, wow, okay, just all right. And you just you have to shrug and just kind of go. I mean, it's because it's one of the things we don't like to do. And I know a lot of artists that we deal with. I'd probably say the majority of them wouldn't mind going back and making changes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But a lot of times we're working on a tight enough schedule that going back to an artist to ask them to make a change, especially a big change, and then have to rerun it through the process again is just untenable with our schedule. Yeah. And I think that's where we run into situations where we just have to say, kind of shrug, say, okay, and move on, unfortunately.
Well, I think the first piece I submitted to you was for Halloween, and
with all the masks, right?
Yeah, they're like, we don't have the licensing for all these different masks because different studios own those.
Because it was only just the first one, yeah.
So that was a good lesson for me. It's just like, oh yeah,
believe me. Listen, I had it as far as on the Halloween project because somebody literally read the brief and they apparently stopped reading at the name John Carpenter.
Oh,
and I got a piece in for the thing, and I'm like, what? I go, this is really cool. I go, but we're doing a book on Halloween.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I guess I didn't read far enough. And I'm like, what? Like any of it? Because it's, I mean, the brief has a picture of Michael Myers on it. I'm like, it's not even, it's like not even close, but it is what it is.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Let's see here. We got this other Stranger Thing piece.
This is another piece. This is a piece by Tony Parker that was also denied, but this one was actually denied by Winona Ryder.
Really?
Yeah, for some reason. So I think maybe, I don't know if when she looked at it, what's that?
She's Winona Ryder's featured at the top, right?
On the upper left, correct.
Right.
And I don't know if maybe she didn't understand that this was a play on Dungeons and Dragons, that they were all kind of depicted as figurines, because they're all on little stands.
Right.
And I just don't know if maybe she got all the details when she got this, or kind of had. I think if someone was able to sit there and like explain to her what this was about, I think it probably would have gone through. But we don't have that opportunity, that this is all handled by either the licensing company we're dealing with, or the studio themselves will make those connections and take care of that stuff. So, but this was a piece that I absolutely loved. And I was really bummed when it came back with a denied on it.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a cover to a comic book. I love it.
Yes, exactly. That's what I thought too. I'm like, there's been Stranger Thing comics. I'm like, how could they not even look at it from that standpoint?
Right.
But, for whatever reason.
Man, that's cool. Some of the artwork that I really enjoy in your collections, came with the Ghostbuster collections.
This is another heartbreaker. I included a bunch of pieces that, so this was a piece it came in very early for us from Matthew Dunn, and it was denied by Ghost Corps because they felt that it was, and now remember, we were doing this book a year and a half before the movie was due to come out, because the book was scheduled to come out a couple months before the movie was originally scheduled to come out last year.
Right.
And then the book eventually got pushed to later in the year, but it still came out a long time before the movie did.
Right.
And then, but the problem was, and of course we have no idea, we have no visuals for the new film or anything.
Yeah.
But Ghost Corps comes back to us and says, we're denying this piece because they felt that the house that he drew was too close to what this house looks like in the new movie, and we don't want people to get confused.
Oh.
And I'm like, what? I was kind of like, it was a complete head scratcher.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen the house that's in the new movie, I understand what they're saying. Okay. I still don't agree with it.
Right.
I don't think anyone would have confused it with the new movie at all. So, but you can only change their mind so many times.
Yeah, I absolutely love the textures, and then you get
it's a great piece
blob of Slimer. It's just like
it's a great image. I was really bummed for Matt, but you move on.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, this is one of my favorites.
This was the very first piece we got in when we put the call out for art, because the artist was Robert Jimenez was getting ready to get really busy on a project, and he knew that when the deadline came for the project, he was going to be in the middle of this other big project. So he's like, I want to get this in now because I don't want to accidentally miss the deadline later. So he dropped this out and sent it over to me. I just started laughing. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm like, this is a great way to start this project.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I think this is one of my favorite pieces out of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and went to club shows in the city, you totally get what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so cool. And then this one was pretty cool. So you've had 2 films that Sigourney Weaver has been in.
Yeah.
Did she approve this one or no?
She had to have.
Okay, cool.
She had to. This is in the Ghostbusters book. This is Vanessa McKee. Nice. Really great artist. And she did a beautiful piece of 11 for the Stranger Things book, which they denied, which she didn't get into, because she sent that in, and she sent this in pretty close to after. And for whatever reason, Netflix denied the Stranger Things piece, and I was really bummed for it. But I'm so glad that this piece just sailed through with absolutely no problems at all.
That's cool. I love the use of the.
The color is fantastic.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's violets and greens. I don't think they get used enough. It's usually
never enough violet and green.
Yeah, and then this one. So this
This
Oh,
is for this was for Firefly. This was a piece for the Firefly book. This is by Giuseppe Balestra. He's a Spanish artist, and his ink work is, he does a lot of pointillism, and it's just
yeah.
absolutely magnificent. If you go to his Instagram, which is, I can't remember if it's Balestra Art. If you do a search for his name, Giuseppe Balestra, you'll find him. He puts short videos up on his Instagram feed of him actually working, and it's just,
that
the
stippling. Whoa,
the
man.
amount of work he puts into his pieces, and he has done a piece for every one of our projects.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're watching, you as a fan, are they like pretty big pieces? Like even like a small piece like this, just doing that is just painstaking, and the dedication and has got to be just amazing.
Yeah, and just a lot of the stuff that he does outside of the work he does for us, like he does a lot of commercial work in his home country, and it's all beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful.
That's so cool. The which book have you put out that probably took the longest? Was it maybe the first one, just getting everything going with the thing?
I would say The Thing, because that was the first one. That was the first one that we actually self-published ourselves. Mm-hmm. We didn't have a tie-in with another publisher. Stranger Things was done as a deal with Netflix, but it was published by Random House.
Oh, cool.
And then Ghostbusters was with Insight Editions.
Nice.
And then Firefly and the upcoming Aliens book were both done with Titan Books. So these are deals where they already hold the licenses for those properties. So we come in and we create the book for them.
Nice. Okay.
And then, the only way we make money is essentially if the book sells a ton.
Okay.
At the end of the day, is how kind of how it works. We've kind of been bootstrapping everything from the beginning. Right. And the thing is now it's allowed us to be in a position to where, so like the Halloween book we have coming out, the Hannibal book we have coming out, these are licenses that we went out and got ourselves, so that we're actually going to start seeing actual money come in from these projects. That's not like, a couple $100 here or there. So it's actually the first time we're going to really kind of start to be able to grow the company. We're actually doing our first non-art book this fall as well. We're doing an episode guide for the TV show Ultraman.
Oh, sweet!
That's the first 8 seasons of the live action TV series from from 66 to 1980 or whatever it was, and so that'll be out later this year. And then we literally just announced today, or yesterday, I should say, but we're announced that our very next project is a tribute art book to Bernie Wrightson.
Yes,
Bernie. I was lucky enough to be able to call Bernie a friend, and a couple friends of mine who own a company called Monster Forge, Shannon Denton and Steve Niles, which I saw in your opening thing you've had on.
Yep.
Steve, I go back with Steve 10, 12 years.
That's cool. Steve's a great guy.
Yeah. So they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want to do this tribute book to Bernie, kind of like your art books." And I said, "Okay." And they're like, "Well, do you think we could do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think that'll be a problem at all." So that we just, we kind of figured out how, the money is good. The money from the project is actually going to go back to the Bernie's estate. And his widow. So as of right now, the project is live. So, has an art deadline of like November. We try and, whenever we try and do these deals, you were asking which one takes the longest. And I said The Thing because we didn't have a date that we had to get it done by. We knew that we wanted to launch the book the following year at Comic-Con. So we knew we had to have the book in our hand by July, but that's a lot of time.
Right.
We spent probably 7 or 8 months gathering artwork from artists for that first book. And now it's generally, if I can give artists 4 months, I feel pretty comfortable we'll get a really good turnout on a project.
Right.
But like sometimes it just you get through because of contracts and having to wait, and when the publisher wants to get the book out, sometimes you just get stuck, and we're in a position where we can only give artists like 2, maybe 3 months. I generally won't agree to do a book if I can't give artists at least 3 months.
Okay.
Because I know people are busy. I'm happy they're busy, but if they want to do a piece for a book, then great. But I want to be able to give them enough time to be able to do it if they want to.
Yeah.
And I think that 3 months is generally a pretty good window.
Yeah.
We like to, like I said, like in the case of like the Bernie Wrightson book, we're giving people till the end of November, because again, our plan is to release this next year in the summertime.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we'll probably have some sort of setup, and we'll be at San Diego Comic-Con.
Nice.
And launch the book there.
Nice. Cool.
Do a bunch of signings and do a bunch of crazy stuff. Anything we can figure out. But
and I think didn't they do an online thing again this year?
Yeah, they just did a virtual one this year. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be nice to see people out and about at that event.
It will. It'll be nice to get out and about to those events again. As soon as we can.
Right.
Fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah. Well, you being in New York, have you been able to? I know lockdown and everything just kind of ended for you in the last month or two or so.
We've been pretty. New York has been pretty good after that initial crap they went through.
Yeah.
Once we started being able to get vaccinations here in the state.
Yeah.
We're actually pretty high as far as the percentage of the population that's vaccinated in New York.
Good.
And where we are, I live about 45 minutes outside the city.
Yeah.
Where I am and around me, most people are pretty much still just doing what they need to do. They're generally as a rule of thumb, they're just being smart.
Good.
I mean, I had COVID in January.
I'm sorry.
And I ended up in the hospital for a day. I ended up with a bunch of blood clots in my lungs, and which I had to deal with over the next number of months with blood thinners and stuff like that. But I mean, it was still far. It's one of those things where once it happened to me, I totally got why it was doing the damage that it was to people.
Yeah,
because I'm a fairly healthy guy.
Yeah,
and to the point where I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs and not be completely winded to the point where I'm having like chest pains. And for like somebody who has asthma or has some kind of like other like air, restriction or some sort of other underlying health thing.
Yeah,
it would be devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Yeah. I was just curious. Are you able to go out and do events and do pop culture events and stuff out there right now?
Yeah, we've had a couple of small local shows that have gone off. Cool. Some friends of mine have gone to, and we're actually pretty open here. Everything's still pretty good here. Good. We haven't seen I recently saw kind of a map of like the spikes and stuff that have been happening of the whole U.S. And it's like, I mean, New York and L.A. and Chicago are always going to be a little warmer than other places simply because of the sheer volume of people that are in those areas. Yeah. But when you actually look at it, it's like the percentages versus the actual number of people are very low. And it's just, I think here we're still pretty good. Now I'm actually flying to Kansas City to do a show in a few weeks. Cool. I'll be at Planet Comic-Con working at that convention. So that'll be my first show back since 2019. Nice.
So Printed in Blood will have a presence out there then?
No, this is actually a show that so my business partner actually works on this convention. And so he flies me out to help him actually run the show. So I kind of help management kind of with hour-to-hour problems and kind of help keep the problems to a minimum.
Man, so you still got your feet in all these different worlds, doing physical events and curating art books and stuff. Man,
absolutely,
awesome.
Absolutely.
That's cool. At these shows, do you ever, see like, talent? It's like, hey, you should submit to this book that we're putting.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. At almost every show I attend, we always try to walk through Artist Alley, and just see if we can spot new talent that, might be interested in doing, or the stuff that we like, or maybe in a style that we don't have anyone doing. So we'll always approach people and just say, hey, have you ever heard of, we do these art books, and, if you're interested, please shoot us an email. We'll get you on our mailing list, kind of thing. And just, just do a quick intro, and some of them lead to artists joining us, and, some don't, and that's the nice thing about what we do, is like every project is not for every person,
Right.
It's like the Thing book, we had, 400 pieces of art come in, and I'd say the next book that we did, not counting Guillermo del Toro, but like, say, for example, the Ghostbusters book or Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I'd say there's probably only 50 or 60 artists who were in the Thing book that are in the Stranger Things book, because it just doesn't necessarily speak to the same,
right.
A lot of the people who did work on the Thing book are like monster guys. So whatever property you're working on doesn't have monsters in it.
Yep.
It's not going to be a thing for them.
Right.
And that's totally awesome. Everyone should have what they like and don't like. And, if it's a property that appeals to them, or that people feel strongly about and are real big fans of, then we want to try and hit as many of those as possible that kind of cross the largest kind of cross section of artists as possible too.
Yeah. That's cool. With the audience, like, obviously, you're targeting a lot of film fans and art fans.
Yeah.
Stuff. Do you ever get that cross section of like, people that just aren't aware of these properties, but somehow are introduced to that film or that property by your book?
I'm sure we do, and it's funny too. You can go to, and this is it's an annoyance, but it's kind of a funny thing. So you can go to almost any one of our listings on Amazon for any of our art books that have come out, and there's always a review on there, like a 1-star review, because somebody bought the book and thought it was like one of the like the Marvel art of the movie books, where it's all like the background stuff and concept art and all, directly from that project. And that's what they think it is.
Yeah.
And then they're disappointed and they leave us a terrible review. And I'm like, how does this have anything to do with our book? I'm like, you didn't read the description. How is that my fault?
Maybe they're like artists like me, where they just read the first line and it's like, yeah, we'll get this.
I'm in. Well, that's it. They're like, Ghostbusters, I'm in,
Yeah, we're good.
Like, wait a minute, this isn't what this is not my office. Yeah, that's just But listen, I have no doubt. I mean, listen, the Thing book, we published the Thing book in 2017, and we printed, being super optimistic, we printed like 10,000 copies of that book. Okay. And we've given a lot away as samples. We used, it was a proof of concept for us. We had meetings with studios before we had the book in our hand to talk about, more projects to kind of build leading into it. And by the time we actually got the book in our hand and were able to hand it to some of those people that we had discussed what we were doing with them, they were kind of like, oh, now I get it. Right. It's like everything kind of clicked into place, and it's a really great thing to be able to hand people one of our books. Right. And because when you tell someone, we're putting out this collection of artwork that's inspired by this property, and it's like, a lot of people can't necessarily align the two, and it's like, I always hate, for no good reason, I think the term fan art has a negative connotation to it. Right. And I hate the fact that it does, but I'm not the guy to necessarily make that change to the zeitgeist. So I try to avoid using it, but in reality, what we're doing is publishing these collections of fan art.
Yeah.
Now, if in some way eventually we can change that view of what people consider fan art to be, I'll be the happiest guy in the world, because I think that there are so many, I like to look at what we do as, opening people's awareness to how many amazing artists there are out there working who you have no idea like what's going on, and got people who can't get, this all started out because me and my partner and our book designer, we've all worked in and around the comic book industry for years. I think we once sat down and figured out between the three of us, we have close to 60 years of experience in the comic book industry. Nice. And we all have, between the three of us, we have hundreds of connections of comic book artists. And this all grew from like comic book artists into this thing that started to accompany like storyboard artists, animators, fine artists, illustrators, poster illustrators. This whole thing started because I love the alt poster movement. I think it's amazing. I still do.
It's so enriching too.
I don't have any room on my walls for it, but I still love it. I have folders filled with stuff on my computer. But I have a okay selection of posters that I purchased, and then kind of realized, why do I keep doing these? I have no place to put these except in these giant portfolio binders. And I'm just like, and then they're going to get stacked in a pile in my office, and no one's going to be able to enjoy them. I'd rather them be on a wall someplace, to be honest.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, like I said earlier, the books that you publish, they're portable galleries. For all the fans to participate in and love, and even discover if you're not a fan,
absolutely. Or if you're just coming into that property or something, you think it's cool.
Right. Yeah. Some of these last pieces that you sent over from the Alien. Oh my gosh, I love this painting.
So this is a painting by a guy named Cliff Cramp, and he actually sent in 3 pieces for the Aliens art book, and actually this was the one we didn't use.
Wow, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, and it was just this was a situation where we already knew we had 2 other pieces by him that were much more unique, and we had a ton of shots of the Queen kind of in this pose. Right. So we just kind of made the decision that we'll take this piece out, and he's still going to be represented in the book with his other pieces, but this piece just didn't make the cut, and that's kind of like the editorial process that happens most often on our end, is just by something that we have to try and do, like this sort of like weird artistic math, to try and like figure out
what a good balance is. Yeah.
Exactly.
If this didn't make it in, then I can't wait to see what did.
Right.
So cool. And then you got this fantastic sketch too.
Again, this was another piece that didn't make the cut, and this was one of the, I don't want to say one of the last pieces to get cut out, but it was just at that point we finally got to a point with Aliens that we had so much beautiful art and all approved that we just had to start cutting stuff for space. Right. And it get down to like the last kind of few pieces that you need to cut, and it can be really painful because it's like, I really, really like this piece, and Trent has been submitting pieces for the last 2 or 3 art books we've done, and without any luck, without getting in. And it's like he does this beautiful piece that on any other odd day would easily make it in. It would easily make the cut, and it's just by sheer dumb luck, and us kind of going through it as we sit down to do this. It's not just me; it's me and my 2 partners going through and making these decisions. We don't just like arbitrarily go. I don't just arbitrarily go, yep, that one's out. Oh, that sucks. That's good. That's better. I'm gonna make sure that one goes in. It's really, listen, I have friends. I have good friends of mine who submit pieces for every book. Not every piece of theirs gets past the studio approval process.
Right.
It just really depends on, sometimes I can fight for them, sometimes I can't. Like the Halloween book, their approval rate was about 65% out of all the pieces that were submitted for that project. and we got a lot of pieces in, and there were a lot of good pieces that just got cut. And it was really just more about, finding what it was that they didn't want to see,
Right.
and us trying to kind of, work together with them to try and build the best possible project we could. And with the Halloween book, I think we absolutely have.
Yeah.
That's going to be amazing when it comes out.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the Halloween book and the Alien book.
The aliens book put together, done at the end of the day, is one of my favorite books that we've done. Alien is one of my absolute all-time favorite films. I was dying to do a book in the Alien universe, and we got the offer to do this Aliens book with Titan, and I was just like, I can't possibly say no to this. So
right. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What is there a project on the horizon that you're just absolutely dying to do?
There's a huge list of them. There's a ton of property. I mean, listen, I would love to be able to do a Friday the 13th book. I would love to do a Nightmare on Elm Street book, and these are books that I would do as a franchise project. I would want to be able to have access to as many of the films as I could going in. Like, I don't want to do a book that's just based on Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Right.
Because I'm like, yeah, we'll have Freddy, but I'm like, I don't want to just have access to just that and just those characters and just that imagery. I want everything. I want everything from the beginning, because I want to do a whole thing. Yeah. And with those franchises, Halloween was really tough. Originally, our deal with Halloween was originally supposed to be set up with Compass, and who had rights to the first film, and then has a piece of everything after. But also, everything after that is also parceled out between Miramax, and it's parceled out, some of them with Universal and Blumhouse, and there's a lot of moving parts that all have to sign off on this.
Yeah.
So basically what happened was we were in a conversation that we were in with Miramax and Compass, and then Miramax, for whatever reason, stopped responding to the email thread, and the guys over at Compass were just like, well, hey, would you want to do a book just based on the original? And I said, yeah, absolutely, without hesitation.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Of course, that's such a and that's my favorite Halloween movie of all of them.
Sure.
Is that first one? It's classic. It's incredibly iconic, and the approach of it was so unique, because after that film, then everything had to up the ante, have this gore factor, especially after the first Friday the 13th.
None of the other Halloween films that have come after, and that includes the new ones, none of them feel like the original film.
Right.
They're all different in their own way, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And there are good and bad ones. Yeah. As any 10, 11, 12 film series, and people have obviously their own feelings about,
preferences.
Exactly. I mean, look at the Friday the 13th series. There are people, there are big Friday the 13th fans who absolutely despise Jason X.
Right.
And Jason X is my favorite film after the first one.
Nice.
I love Jason X.
That one is so fun. I love the campiness to it.
Exactly. It never takes itself seriously.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that we would like to do. I would kill to do a Resident Evil book.
Oh, neat.
We want to try and get into video game properties. I think that there's a lot of material there that is absolutely worth mining, and that would be like absolutely dynamite looking art books. Right. We've talked to studios with big catalogs trying to bundle up like 8 or 10 small old classic kind of culty horror films, and just be like, well, let's do like a midnight drive-in art book where it's like we can go out to artists and say, we have rights to these 8 movies, what do you want to do whatever, which as many or as few as you want to do, so and then we would just have a section for each one kind of thrown together.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see like a collected art book where you've got something from like El Topo and then something from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, I mean, or even we've gone down the road of when we were first having discussions with Warner Brothers before we realized that making any kind of deal as a small company is nearly impossible with Warner Brothers. They won't make deals that are small. Everything, it's like you want to buy licensing, they want you to buy a Warner Brothers master license, which is basically they want you to come in and say, okay, this is going to give you access to everything that's licensable in our library. You cut us a check for $250,000 and you can go and make stuff and you give us a percentage. And it's just like, right, but we can't cut a check for $250,000. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous.
Right.
Because at that time also we were, they had Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, which now both of which they don't have full control over again. So that's kind of out in limbo anyway.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is too, it's like, you can go after individual films or use those as kind of door kickers for a larger deal down the road. Like I could go to the guys at Crystal Lake and be like, hey, we would love to do a book on Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
But then your biggest problem is you don't have Jason with a hockey mask.
Oh, right. That's the thing.
Even if you do part 1 and 2, you don't have Jason with a hockey mask.
Nope.
You have to have 3, or else you've got no hockey mask.
Otherwise, you got Mom and you've got the water.
Baghead. You got Baghead. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Matthew just chimed in. He said, "I love the one with King Hodder as the man."
Well, that's like what, 4 of them?
Yeah, I think
Kane Hodder played Jason in like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, they need to make a deal for Friday like Sony and Disney is doing.
Yeah. As soon as we're to the size that we can start demanding that kind of respect in the business, believe me, we'll make those deals. But and just Bitcoin can pay you. I can pay you in Bitcoin. Nice. Yeah. There's a lot of properties. There's we would love to do a Godzilla book. Yeah, we would love to do. I mean, you can sit here. I have one of the threads on our message board is like, what's your dream project?
Yeah.
And I've had, it's fun to go through there and read this stuff because some of it you just look at and shake your head. It's like, yeah, it'd be really fun to do a book for that, but we'd sell 5 copies. Right. Because it's just like, do a book on Buckaroo Banzai. Yes. I love that movie. Yes, I do. But how many people, know that movie and would actually buy a $50 art book based on it, Yeah.
Well, and that would have to be something that you'd combine into like a midnight movie series.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly the kind of thing we were trying to do, is bundle in like a group of films from a library. But now that studio that we were talking about doing that with just got bought by someone. So now we're kind of waiting for for all the shoes to land before we go back and talk to them about making new deals.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Real quick before, we're about out of time, but real quick,
okay.
Do you have any recommendations or suggestions on artists when submitting work to you?
As far as what?
As far as what you're looking for.
We don't art direct. We don't tell people what they should draw, because we feel very much that if a person loves a property for a reason, that reason will present itself very obviously to that person when they're coming up with a drawing or a creation, whatever it may be. They'll have that thing in their head, and we don't want to tell them what that thing should look like. They should be able to dictate that to us. Because we feel that overall, we're always going to get a better product back from someone who loves a property than if someone's just doing a piece for a book because they're trying to get in the book. Yeah. Which I'm sure people have done and been successful at. I don't doubt. It's with an open door submission policy. If you're a talented artist, you'll be able to do a piece and create something for a project. That's an ability. But it's fun to see the pieces we get in on stuff, because I think that a lot of times you can identify the people who really, really love a project or really love a property by the quality of piece you get, especially when you go back. And this is the first time I discovered this, the first time on the Thing book. We had some guys who wrote us and said, I want to do a piece for the book. And of course, I would go and look at their website or their Instagram feed or whatever. And I would just be like, okay.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what we're going to get back from this guy. And, and I'd say nearly in every case, the piece that we got from them for the project absolutely blew me away. I was like, cool. Why aren't you doing work like this and posting this on your website? I'm like, this is what you need to be putting out there to people, not this other stuff. Get rid of that other stuff and put new stuff up, because you are seriously underselling yourself.
Right. Have you ever had that conversation with artists?
I have. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And I'm a pretty open book when it comes to stuff like that. If artists come to me and ask me questions about their art or whatever, I try to be as constructive as I can, and kind of let them know why stuff is. I think in most cases, artists know already, that they're not necessarily at a level with everybody else. So they kind of know where they are, but I think it's always good to help artists, to kind of tell them things that, as an outsider looking at their artwork for the first time, things that I think that they might want to focus on overall, just to help them become a better artist.
Yeah.
And I try, and whenever someone asks me, I always respond. I always talk. I'm more than happy to interact with any of our artists, because really, without our artists, our work doesn't exist.
Right.
At the end of the day, our what we do would be a bunch of blank pages.
Right. Oh man. Yeah. Steve, thanks so much for coming on and talking about Printed in Blood, and
sure, man,
the cool art that you were able to share with us. It's just fantastic.
Anytime. I'm like I said, I do a podcast myself, so I'm used to this kind of stuff. And cool. Anytime you need me, you let me know.
Oh, fantastic. I appreciate it. Stick around for a few minutes after we sign off, but wanted to say thanks to all our sponsors for putting up with us and broadcasting our stuff. Hellfire Entertainment, thanks for rebroadcasting us on their social media. Mutiny Information Cafe. If you're going to start a revolution, make sure you're caffeinated. And of course, our friends at Groovy TV. Thanks so much for all your support. And then also our friends at Alien Donut Films, Bill and Angela. Can't wait to see you guys at COFOH at Colorado Festival of Horror, which will be our first in-person event. And that'll be September 10th through the 12th here in Denver. So make sure you go get your tickets at cofohorror.com. And and to our producers, Stefan Santa Cruz and Amanda Armstrong, thanks so much for your support. And to everybody that tuned in and watched, thanks so much, guys. Make sure to take care of each other during these hard times, and we love you. Take care.